A camping trip with your best friend. What could possibly be better, right? A little bit of adventure, a much-needed break from exams. But what happens when that simple, thrill-seeking trip just goes horribly wrong? When it turns into a life-altering tragedy? Well, today, we're going to dive into the story of two friends, a haunted jungle, and a single decision that changed absolutely everything.
This line, it's really at the heart of our story today. It's this chilling reminder of just how fast an adventure can spiral into a total nightmare. And it perfectly sets the stage for what happened to Anurag and his friend Akash way back in May of 2021.
So, it all started with a really simple plan. You've got two college students, they're finally done with their exams, and they're just looking for one last adventure before the holidays. And they set their sights on the supposedly quiet jungles near Jaipur.
Okay, so what's really interesting here is the dynamic between our two main characters. On one hand, you have Akash. He's the skeptic. Totally grounded, scientific, the kind of guy who needs hard proof for everything. And then on the other hand, you have Anurag, the believer. He was much more open to old stories, to legends. It's a classic pairing, and it's kind of the perfect setup for what was about to unfold.
So they pack their bags, hop on a bike, and head out. As they get to the entrance of the Jamwa Ramgarh jungle, they see this rusted, half-broken sign that very clearly warns, "Do not enter." But, they're young, they're looking for a thrill, so they just ignore it. They go right past and head deep into the woods.
So the sun goes down, and they get their tent all set up. And for a little while, everything was perfect. They're drinking, eating, just enjoying the quiet of the forest. And then, in an instant, that peace was absolutely shattered.
Out of nowhere, a girl's terrifying scream just cuts through the night. It was filled with so much pain and fear. The words they heard were, "Save me, that sorcerer will kill me." Anurag just froze, his blood ran cold. But Akash, ever the skeptic, he tries to brush it off. He's insisting it's just some local trying to mess with them, trying to scare them off.
Even though he was terrified, Anurag agreed they had to investigate, just in case someone was actually in trouble. So they followed the voice, going deeper and deeper into the woods, until their flashlight landed on this massive, ancient peepal tree. And there, at its base, they saw something that made Anurag's heart just stop: an old, raised grave.
And right here, this is the moment everything changed. Anurag, completely freaked out by the grave, wanted to leave immediately. But Akash, fueled by his own logic and, maybe a little alcohol, he just laughed it off. He said it was all in their heads. And then he did something incredibly foolish. He walked over to the bushes right near the grave and urinated. A simple act of disrespect that would have absolutely horrifying consequences.
They left the jungle the next morning, but the jungle, it didn't leave Akash. In the days that followed, Anurag started noticing his friend was changing. Something was deeply, deeply wrong.
At first, it was subtle. Akash got really quiet, withdrawn. He had these dark circles under his eyes. But once he got back home, things escalated fast. His family saw him sleepwalking at night, muttering to someone who wasn't there, and just flying into these unexplained fits of rage. The logical, grounded Akash that they all knew, he was just gone.
And it wasn't just Akash's behavior. The house itself seemed to be changing. His mother would hear a girl sobbing from inside his locked room. The prayer lamp in the house would just extinguish on its own. Dishes would start clattering in the kitchen with no one there. She knew this was more than a medical problem. This was something else entirely. Desperate, Akash's mother called a pundit, a Hindu priest, to come to their home. After she explained everything that had been happening, the pundit entered the house and he immediately sensed a dark presence. He asked to see Akash, and this is where things were really about to come to a head.
The Pandit starts sprinkling holy water on Akash, and suddenly his body begins to convulse violently. And then a girl's voice just erupts from his mouth. It was defiant, filled with this incredible rage, and it screamed the words you see here. "I won't tell you. I will take him with me."
Through a series of intense prayers, the spirit finally revealed its name, Rupa, and it turned out she had latched onto Akash for two big reasons. First, he looked eerily similar to the man who had murdered her all those years ago, and second, he had disrespected her final resting place that night in the jungle.
Her backstory is just unbelievably tragic. Rupa was basically a child bride, married off to a man named Kamlesh. She soon discovered he was a tantric, a practitioner of dark magic, and to complete some ritual for power, he needed a human sacrifice. On a new moon night, he led her to that exact same peepal tree, murdered her, and buried her body right there,
trapping her vengeful spirit for 25 long years.
But, knowing her story didn't make the solution any easier. What came next was this desperate, heartbreaking battle to save Akash from a force that was literally consuming him from the inside out.
But nothing worked. The Pandit performed all these rituals, but Rupa's hold on him was just too strong. A protective talisman that was placed on Akash shattered into pieces the moment it touched him. His family even rushed him to the hospital, but the doctors were completely baffled. Every single test came back normal, yet his body was clearly, visibly failing.
So despite being in the ICU, surrounded by all the tools of modern medicine, Akash's condition just got worse and worse. He stopped eating, and a few days later, he took his last breath. To this day, his official cause of death remains a complete mystery.
For Anurag, the loss of his best friend was absolutely devastating, and it was compounded by this terrible guilt that still haunts him. He's just left with these questions. Why did we go camping? Why didn't he listen? The endless what-ifs about that one fateful night.
In all of this, it leaves us with one final, really unsettling question. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. You're in the middle of a dark forest, and you hear a desperate cry for help. Your rational mind is screaming that it's probably a trap, but your conscience is saying, what if someone is in real danger? So what do? Do you investigate or do you run?